because both have excelled in the art of being harmonious. Academically, their careers have indeed been meritorious, and their name and fame across Europe is very glorious. Our weaknesses sometimes make us feel indeed very vulnerable and notorious, and make us really feel exhausted and give a feel of being laborious. But they tell us, let's not feel with the self so dejected, depressed, and furious, because this sanskar or habit of body consciousness is indeed very spurious. So let's get rid of waste thoughts that make us feel always dubious, because the Almighty's strength is always with us, which makes us indeed feel victorious. So I'm sure they'll throw a lot of light on this virtue of victory, which is a very powerful value actually. And with this, I would request Sister Anu and Sister Claudia, if she's around, to please welcome them with flowers. Over to you, Sister Anu.
Yeah, Sister Claudia is in Brazil, and she just traveled there, so she couldn't join right now. So on behalf of Sister Claudia, the whole team of Vancouver Center, as well as the whole team of Values for Life series and everyone who is attending here, want to welcome with this colorful, beautiful flowers with 2 roses shining. This is again fall's time here, so it's beautiful colors everywhere. So welcome. And we all are looking forward to listen to this very insightful spiritual dialogue on victory from both of you. And very, very hearty welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Sister Anu. And before I give it to you all, so just a few housekeeping instructions. We have almost 5 languages. You can click on the interpretation icon to listen to the one you want to. And as always, we'll have the first hour, the talk. It's a conversation actually between both of them, followed by questions. And if you can send me your questions right away, that's perfectly fine. And then we'll have a closing meditation as well. So over to you. Thank you once again, both of you, for joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the introduction and thanks for the chance to share. So Gopi and myself, we thought that I got the chance to start off and then Gopi will share her thoughts and then we launch into a conversation. And yes, as has been said, it's a powerful virtue. A victorious, because who would not want victory in his life? And I was looking back my life earlier, how I understood victory then, and how I understand victory now, and it has changed quite a lot. So as a young lad, I would do lots of sports, and being a Swiss, I would also do ski racing or gymnastics, and in both I would do competitions or participate in competitions. And so then it's quite clear what victory is, what you go for. And it's something quite external, something very visible to the outside world. And that's what I thought, that's victory. And now the understanding of victory is really very, very different. It's something rather invisible, not necessarily, but often it's something invisible. It's something very silent, and it's something very personal, that it's not so much connected with the outside world. It's not someone who gives you the approval, like this is your victory, but it's something that comes from the self. But then when I was reflecting, I saw that even before my life became spiritual, I saw sometimes there is something different. There's also different experiences to the victory I just mentioned in connection with sports. For example, I noticed when I would play games with friends, and of course, in a game, I think it's very important you just do the best you can to win. So you want to win. But then I saw that when I didn't win, it wouldn't make a difference to me. And I saw that others would sometimes get really, really upset. And at that time, I didn't reflect too much about it, but I liked this feeling, like being unaffected, doing everything for victory, but then at the end being unaffected, whether it is actually winning or losing. So that was one experience that came to my mind. But then another story came to my mind. I hope it's appropriate to share here. That was in 6th grade, so rather a small boy in school, and I was sitting next to my friend, and my friend suddenly said, "I really should go to the toilet now. I really should go to the toilet," but the lesson would still go on for another 5 to 10 minutes. And so for some reason, he didn't dare to ask the teacher. I can't remember. But then what happened? He made in his pants. He peed in his pants. And on one hand, I was shocked. On the other hand, I had this very deep feeling, he must not lose his honor. So nobody should know about it. And even he should not know that I have realized what just happened to him. So I pretended I haven't seen anything. I would help him. I told him, look, there is a sponge. You can go and get that. And then all of our friends, the whole group, we were walking home after school. He was kind of protecting himself that it's not so visible. And then I went back to the family. I had lunch with my siblings, with my parents, and I never ever told anything to anyone about that. Actually, for many, many years. Only 20 years later, I shared this story as an example. But what is the connection with victory? I came in touch with something completely new to me. Even though I was a little boy, I felt a kind of maturity that's certainly sitting in every single soul. And getting in touch with that, it made me feel very, very good about myself. And so I think that it really felt like this is victory. Of course, I wouldn't use these words, but it felt like victory. It felt like now you just have done something very, very good. You didn't tell anyone, you protected his honor, his face. And so I see that similar situations are happening now in my adult life, where things happen which you shouldn't tell anyone. And at some point I thought, yes, that's easy to do, no problem. But then looking at myself closer, I found, yeah, when someone, for example, behaves towards me in a very inappropriate way, there's this strong feeling. I want to share that with someone. I have to tell to someone what happened to me, what the other one did. But then at some point I decided, no, I don't want to do that. And since I practice this, it feels very, very good inside. And every time something happens to me and I don't share about it, it feels like victory. So what I found is that earlier I thought victory is something you have to do a lot for, you have to fight for, and then there is a result which is visible to everyone. And now I rather think victory is often connected with not doing anything. staying inside, not reacting. And I think I would say it's the conscience winning over the feelings and emotions. The emotions that would push you to do this or that, would push you into the little addictions or little habits. But then victory is, no, I don't do it. No, I don't say it. No, I don't go there. It's one aspect of victory. It doesn't certainly not cover everything, but I think something very important, not to be carried away by the impulses coming from inside. So the conscience winning over the feelings, over the victory, over the emotions, I would say often this is victory. So certainly we will get to talk about many more aspects, but for now I hand over to Sister Gopi and we listen to her reflections.
That was beautiful, Matthias. Thank you for sharing those stories. I've just come from a program, which is the zonal launch here in Jaipur for Rajasthan for RISE, which is Rising India Through Spiritual Empowerment. And it's the launch of a national education program for values and meditation to integrate spirituality into the education system. And we had a number of vice chancellors, principals present. And there was one particular person who was present, who's running for, I think he's an MP, minister, and he's running for some position in government. And he's an Olympian. And he shared something that was the principle that I was going to talk about today on the subject of victory. So I'll share the story with you first, and then I'll tell you the principle. When he was invited for the Olympics, I don't know where, he was speaking so fast, so I don't even know which game he was involved in. But he was invited to, I don't know where the Olympics were held. It wasn't the last Olympics, the previous Olympics. And he thought to himself, what can I take from India that will be meaningful in that country? And he decided to take a copy of the Bhagavad Gita with him. And there's one page, one chapter in the Bhagavad Gita that speaks about performing action, but not eating the fruit of that action. And that was something he focused on a lot, because he said, yes, as an athlete and an Olympian, you have to practice a lot. And you always hear this old phrase that practice makes perfect, practice makes perfect. But one of his coaches then said to him, actually, it's perfect practice that makes perfect. And he said, you know, when you get to the stage where you are just focusing on perfecting your action and you are not concerned about the outcome, it's at that point that your efforts become effortless. And when you're disconnected from any outcome, there's no chance of failure. And at the end, he won a silver medal. And when he came back to India, the media crews were ready and waiting and, you know, saying, well, what did you feel when you got the silver medal? And he goes, well, I didn't feel anything because, you know, I wasn't doing it for the outcome. I was just perfecting my action. And I think when you think about a sense of victory, so much of the definition in the world is linked to some kind of external outcome or achievement. You are doing something for something. And inevitably, what happens is that you set yourself up for stress and tension, because just creating an outcome creates a very subtle expectation. And when that expectation is created, you have to work harder. That's where, when Matthias was saying, well, victory is an effort, that's when it feels like a really hard effort. But actually, when you release away from the outcome and you focus on what you have to do and you do that well, that is a victory in itself, irrelevant of the outcome. And for me, that's very, very important, because that's what defines my journey, my inner journey. You know, on this spiritual path, we've had many elder sisters and daddies to teach us. And I remember one of the daddies would say in Hindi, mar mar, juk juk, seek seek, which means die, die, bow, bow, learn, learn. And when I used to hear that, I was thinking, oh gosh, that's really difficult to do. But I thought, well, my victory doesn't lie in proving myself. My victory doesn't lie in striving after achievements. My victory lies when I stay in my self-respect. And that sense of self-respect remains unruffled, no matter what the situation. And, you know, the second aspect, and I was touched by Matthias's story, this internal feeling of wanting to keep someone's dignity. I think each one of us at our heart have such a benevolent, if you like, a benevolent DNA inside us. We want to give, we want to bring benefit, we want to uplift. And yet, when we actually listen to that and follow that, that's what keeps our state of mind clear and our conscience clean. And so spiritual victory as a value, an internal value or virtue, is actually a victory of conscience, of intellect, clarity of intellect. You know, I remember being told off by somebody many years ago, and they were going, but you know, you're like this and you're like this and you're like this. And I'm sitting there, and at first you're thinking, oh, well, why are you saying all this? That was going on in my head. And after they finished, they walked away. And when I walked into the meditation room and I just put all of this in front of God, I said, well, why are they saying this to me? And as I just let everything rest, my intellect started to perceive that soul was actually seeing me in a very elevated light, and they couldn't bear for me to be any less than that. And I realized that sometimes behind defamation or behind somebody insulting us is actually confused praise. You know, there's years of expectation of souls that have put people up and don't want to see them fall. And it was like in that moment when my intellect perceived that soul actually didn't want even to see the slightest flaw in me, I suddenly became so grateful to them. I said, thank you. I can see that you have my best interests at heart. I can see that you must have seen something more elevated in me that made you come to me and tell me off so that I could perhaps learn something. But that slight perception of the intellect that shifts away from, I don't know, is there a word for negative attraction? Repulsion? You know, there's positive attraction. You get attracted to something and then you repel away from something. That's also negative attraction. So, you know, we get pulled into these games of either positive attraction, someone's praised me, or negative attraction, someone's insulted me, so I move away. But the victorious soul is always able to perceive beyond this attraction dynamic to what is really going on. And I think that intellect that can perceive what is good is always victorious. Irrespective of if you have to appear to bow, you appear to die, you appear to learn, you appear to be humble, you appear to say yes all the time. To the world, it looks like you're a doormat. But in God's eyes and God's heart, you are a victorious soul. Because you've kept your dignity, you've kept your self-respect, you've kept your love, you've kept your benevolence. So I think a huge amount of our perception of victory is very much based on perhaps proving something to someone or to the world. And that when I get a brownie point or I receive some approval, that means I'm worth something. So basically, the idea of victory is achievement-based, outcome-based. Now, when we talk about spiritual victory, it's very much dharana-based. So how long was I able to hold my patience in a situation? That's my victory. How long was I able to remain loving no matter what I had to deal with in a difficult relationship? And it's that staying power that comes from my internal dharana that allows me to remain victorious at a subtle level. So, you know, a truly spiritually victorious soul has gone beyond their ego, because it's not about your ego. And I was thinking, you know, it really at a very deep level, achieving neutrality in every situation is a victory, where you're not affected by the transient emotions in your life, and you're not pulled or distracted by them. And this allows your faith to stay very, very focused and determined. Because, you know, when we get led astray by our emotions, we end up playing games. And we end up compromising our own values in the process. You know, I remember when I was attempting to finish my law degree, I stopped and I took myself 5 years ahead. And I thought, if I finish this law degree, what will I be in 5 years' time? And I saw somebody very successful, very wealthy, very well known. But I also saw somebody that had compromised their happiness. And when I saw that, I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'd rather be happy and poor than be rich and unhappy. And it was at that point I made a decision to exit from that career. And I had to eat humble pie and realize that perhaps at that point in my journey, I didn't have the spiritual strength to face the negativity and the discrimination that was evident in that field. And if I continued in this way, and if I continued to go down the route of proving myself, I would end up compromising my happiness. And then no one's a winner, not me and not the other person. And so I think there's a lot of benevolence in victory. Now, it appeared to a lot of people that I was stepping back. I remember getting comments from so many people saying, but you're so intelligent. What are you doing, throwing your life away? How can you do this? People want what you have. And yet the decision that I made was based on something much deeper. It was based on a personal principle of sustaining my happiness. It was based on a humility of knowing and acknowledging the reality of where I was at that time. So for me, it wasn't a question of stepping back. It was having a reality check to be able to move forward in a clean and clear way. And I was very clear with my decision. I had no issues with it whatsoever. And I think that's the sign of somebody who works with faith. They stay away from waste. They're very clear about what they have to do. And they do that. And they're very clear about the principles with which they want to operate in their life. And so if my activity is principled, then I'm never doing anything because I want something from someone. And it's following my own personal principles and achieving perfection in that activity that brings me the most joy. So I want to stop there because it's been well over 10 minutes. And just throw the ball back to Matthias and see what thoughts are emerging for you, Matthias.
Yeah, I like this very much. This what he shared about the Olympics, this Olympic participant, and it reminds me actually of someone from the Brahma Kumaris, a sister, who was twice Swiss champion in karate, and she started doing karate with 30 years only, and she became Swiss champion with 40, and she's very short, and so people would tell her, "No, come on, you're too short, you won't make it," and she said, "And I will make it. I will make it." So she had this faith. I think that's also something to think about. Faith leads to victory. But she had this conviction, no, I will make it. But then something very interesting she shared, and it's very much connected with what you say, not being concerned or thinking about the outcome, but fully focused on the action and perfecting the action. And so she said that when you are about to fight and for example, she was short and she had to fight against women who were one, maybe more heads taller. And she said, when you start having only one thought, like, she's much taller than me, then you're gone. Or she has longer arms than me, then you're gone. So, and I find that so interesting. That means the slightest thinking about the other one, something that's away from you, will actually take you away from victory. And she said also, no, you would think that someone who is a karate fighter is like kind of very hard and but she said you have to be very, very light, very, very light. And so that's then the perfection of the action, but also fully focused on the self. And I think in our relationships, for example, it's often about this. Let's say someone has a challenging character and you have to deal with this person. So the moment I start thinking about this person, my attention goes in the wrong direction. And so when I managed only to think about myself, what should be my behavior? What quality should I show? And what can I improve in myself? So then I think it's possible to achieve victory in every relationship. And I don't know, Gopi, what you would say. Would you agree that we have to let go of every slightest expectation, and then only then this is victory? As long as we still have a slightest expectation, if it's only that much, like, but at least this person could be friendly or have good manners or say hello. I think as long as we matter, as this doesn't matter to us, then we are still on the way to achieving victory. Would you agree to that, or can we
I
hold
would
on to?
no, I would agree with that, definitely. And you know, I'm remembering something Daddy Jenki would share. And I loved it because she talked about the basis of harmony in life. She would say, every question has an answer. Every problem has a solution. Every person is playing their part. And every person has a right to be. And if you understand this, then you'll be flowing, you'll be able to harmonize with anybody. And I think there's this spiritual pose that I need to adopt where I'm comfortable playing my own part. I think, why would we have an expectation of another? Because I'm not sure what I need to be doing myself. And so it's easier to fill the gap by having somebody behave with me nicely to feel nice. Well, why don't you feel nice anyway? You know, so there's something about watching the daddies, and they're so secure in their self-respect that being with them is like just being in an ocean. You can be yourself with them. And it doesn't matter if you're upset, it doesn't matter if you're this, there isn't any judgment or any expectation for you to be different at that point in time, because they don't want anything from you. And I always say the biggest defeat, the opposite of victory, the biggest defeat in relationships are your subtle desires and expectations.
Mhm.
You are never defeated by a person or a situation. You are only defeated by what you want from it. And I think a huge amount of stress and tension can be eradicated if we let go of an outcome and work, you know, be truthful in this moment now. You know, I think about the spirituality here in Bharat, and it has such a rich heritage of spirituality. And yet there's such a big difference and a disconnect between its heritage, people's lives, their lived experiences, and their heritage of spirituality, where so many influences have come in that definitely the next generation has no connection with the spiritual heritage of Bharat. And I think to myself, well, why? Because to some extent, spirituality has become like a means to an end. You go to the temple and you'll pray to God, and you'll do an X amount of, you know, rotations around the deity for getting success in your work, for getting a good job, for getting money, for getting on with your relatives or something. So there's always like a price tag attached. So the spiritual expression itself very rarely comes from a place of purity and recognition. It is a means to an end. And you can't ever be victorious if you live like that. You just develop a very transactional lifestyle. Give, take, give, take, give, take, and then you're in victory, defeat, you know? So I think for me, it's really important to come out of a place of an expectant state. And I feel patience plays a very important role, because I find that where I keep patience, my faith works for me. The faith in the intellect, the clarity of the intellect, my wisdom works for me. And, you know, a little example, I remember arriving into Heathrow. And it was the time when there was the strike of the baggage handlers. And of course, I crossed immigration quickly, came to the baggage carousel. And, you know, then after 5 minutes over the loudspeaker, there's a baggage handler strike. You're going to have to wait. But nobody was telling us how long you have to wait. 10 minutes passed by, it was okay. 15, 20, half an hour, 45 minutes. And I could feel the group after 20 minutes starting to get edgy. Because people were waiting, but waiting in an expectant state.
Mm.
And I could feel myself becoming expectant. When's the luggage going to come? When's the luggage going to come? And I just stopped and I went, Gopi, you have no control over this situation at all. It will come when it comes. Those poor guys, there's probably only a few of them at the back because there's a major strike. So just be peaceful and send them some good wishes. And I switched from an expectant state to a state of benevolence. Well, at least if I can't physically help them, I can send them good vibes so they can do their job. Because nobody's going to appreciate them, you know. And I was just patiently waiting. I switched and became so peaceful as I was just giving those good wishes. And then somebody next to me struck up a conversation with me, and the time just flew by. And the bags came when they had to come. But at least I used my time in a worthwhile way. And I honored something. I didn't walk away from that scene with a memory of, oh, I had to wait so long for the bags. Because then you get into the car and you tell somebody, how was it? Oh, I had to wait so long for the bags. And then it becomes a big story. And that's how we create so many stories in our life, you know? And so these small, small things are our moments of personal victory. And then everything in our lives, I feel, is utilized for the best. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's very much something that also a result of reflection about victory. I thought victory it's really not at all about something big that you want to achieve. It's about every moment in life. Has it been victorious or not? And I would say it's a nice thought to experience victory in every moment as a aim, but sometimes there is defeat, and that's also fine. But we get up and we continue. And as you say, in these little moments, for example, today, I mean, I could share many experiences where I didn't experience victory, but this is not very inspiring. But we share experiences where we had victory. This is more inspiring. For example, today, like 3 hours ago, I was stung by a wasp here. So, and then I was invited at someone's place for a nice lunch, and I came, and then she said, "Oh, look, there's wasps there." And then one wasp came straight to me and stung me. And that was fine. But what I liked about it is that I had no ill feeling or no feeling of this should not have happened, or these wasps are nasty, and I liked that. And for me, it was like, oh, that was victory. That was victory. And I think it's these little things, and we start actually, I think it's very important that we start putting our attention to these moments of victory, because we have many of these little moments of being victorious, and then we accumulate this awareness and experiences. Victory here, victory there. I think it will really boost our self-respect. And then with self-respect, there will also be humility. And with whatever challenge comes along the way, we will be able to deal with it, because we accumulated experiences of victory. So what I want to say is we have these big moments of victory anyway, but we don't perceive it consciously.
Mm. Mm. It's interesting how actual victory in the form of an achievement or defeat, it's only a result. It's the meaning we give to it that stresses us out. It's just a result.
Yeah.
Somebody calls it failure, somebody else calls it victory. So when we shift away from being result conscious or outcome conscious to really being soul conscious, and I feel the strength of our ability to remain beyond being triggered is really the strength and the faith that I in my own eternity as a soul. My safety, my security, the eternal nature of who I am as a soul makes me fearless. And that in itself means, well, you know, if you're not afraid of death, what can you be defeated by? And I think this experience of holding this awareness of myself at a very deep level and having over a period of time disidentified from the human experience as a benchmark for my success. You know, so if I have a human achievement, if I get praised, if I win something, if I this, it must mean I'm this. Well, that's just a transient, it's just a transient journey. It'll come, it'll go. But who I am is so much bigger than that. And I think part of that journey of becoming soul conscious and deeply maintaining faith in the intellect, I do have to break an aspect of, call it expectation, call it body consciousness, call it attraction to an image. You know, I think for a lot of us, as we move around our day-to-day lives, we're holding an image, a perception of ourselves and how we should be. I mean, you know, it's very easy, even in the Brahma Kumaris, to be institutionalized because you can carry this image of what a BK should be in your head. And then you try and be like that. And actually, that's not what it's about. The first subject is consider yourself to be a soul, which means relax from your image and the perception of who you think you are or who you should be, and relax into your original qualities. And as you relax into those original qualities, those vibrations will guide the perfection of your action. And that's what makes you an angel. Every act you do, then it becomes special, you know, and because you feel special inside. And it's a completely different place to be. So I think at some point in our lives, we do have to check and see, well, you know, is there an image I'm still trying to sustain here? Am I still projecting a very subtle image out there of how I want people to perceive me?
Mhm.
I want to be liked, maybe. Or am I really selflessly acting, you know, from a place of my own truth and from a place of my own values? I think attraction is the thing that needs breaking here, because that's the point of defeat. When you try, if you've noticed the games in relationships, if you go out to impress somebody and they get impressed, you have them in your hand. So either wanting to impress others or wanting to be impressed, you know, we think these are good things in life, but actually they're very subtle thing. They're very self-defeating, because every time you get impressed by somebody, you're giving your power away. You know, and I think that's very true when you said earlier, even if you think, oh, this one is such a virtue, and you make a little comparison and you feel, well, oh my God, they're all so intelligent, but I'm not that intelligent. Then in that moment, you've just given your power away. And you lose focus. You lose focus on yourself. And I think there's something connected with that when you are in yourself, then you can remain humble. And when I say humble, is you know your place in the world. You know your place in yourself, and you know your place in your world. You're not in charge of everything. You can't control everything. But there are forces and benevolent forces bigger than you. So you actually learn to take help from events and circumstances and people, from the divine. You know, a humble person always knows how to take help. That doesn't mean you're defeated just because you're taking help.
I really like what you said earlier, relax into your original qualities. And I think, yeah, what you describe, like attraction or wanting to be seen in a particular way, wanting to uphold an image that I created, but then I feel it's like kind of an image that's not quite me, and it takes a lot of effort to kind of keep this image alive and walk around with this and talking from this, and but just to let go of expectations from others, but yeah, the way I am perceived, expectations of status, you know, these famous fame, honor and fame. It is very subtle, and I think we still want to be recognized, or I mean, I feel these traces wanting to be recognized, and but this is true freedom, isn't it? This is victory. On the one hand, not to care what others think about me, but of course connected with the constant work to be the best version that I can. But then really not to care what others think about me. Being open for signs when they give me a sign, then having the humility, okay, there's something I have to work on, and then this itself is again victory. Being open to change. So I think victory actually, it doesn't come along. It doesn't come alone. It's for example, in a situation when I can maintain my dignity, this is victory. In another situation, when I can remain content with whatever is, this is victory. Or if I can remain respectful towards a person, no matter how much I am treated wrongly, and I can still be respectful, but also be respectful towards myself. So this is victory. I think it doesn't come alone, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree.
Victory for itself. What would it be? It comes with something.
Well, it's an expression of your value and your dignity. You know, there's a beautiful story of the Vice Chancellor of Rajasthan University came to the program. And she said that she shared a beautiful story. She said there was a fire somewhere, and before the fire engines and everything could come to put out the fire, there was a little bird. And this bird went to a little pond, picked up drops and put it in the fire. And it kept doing this. It kept picking up drops of water and putting it in the fire. And somebody said to this little bird, but these are only little drops. How is it going to make a difference? And this little bird said, well, at least I'll be known for putting out the fire and not igniting the fire. And it's something, this is what your values do for you. You behave in a particular way because it's what you are, and that's the legacy and the memorial you leave behind. You're not performing that action because of
Mm.
something or somebody. You are performing that action because you are expressing the grace of the beauty of your value inside yourself. Every aspect of it. And we are tested in all relationships to use every single virtue, from patience to love to respect to tolerance, that when we learn to perfect this expression, that's our victory. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And you know, in Hindi we call it Nischay Buddhi Vijayanti. So the intellect that has faith leads to victory. So there is something about the way we move in life that can't be blind. You know how if you look at your own life and many people in the world and you ask them, why are you doing what you're doing? They can't answer you. Oh, well, because my grandparents did it. Or because my family did it. Oh, well, it's a tradition. But, well, what's the significance of that? So many people have not owned their actions. They're either playing out a belief system or playing out what somebody else has told them, playing out memories. And actually, when you're working with an intellect, a clear intellect that has faith, you're working with clear understanding. You know why you're doing something, and you have made a choice to do it. So it's not because you've just come into some emotion and you're getting carried away with it because everybody else around you is doing the same thing. And it's that little moment when there's clarity of what you're doing, why you're doing it. Everything in your life is done through understanding. Because when there's that clarity of perception and clarity of intellect, you can't be moved. You just can't be moved. No emotion exists at that point because you understand the past, present, future of each action. So you know that I'm not doing that. That's not for me. This is for me. This is what I'm going to do. But when there isn't full understanding about what you have to do, why you're doing it, and perhaps in some cases you actually haven't made a choice. Somebody said to you, do this, and you're doing it, but in your head, you actually haven't said, well, actually, I choose to do this.
Mm.
So it's either one of these three elements that kind of make us lose our anchor inside.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get carried away by influences, by all kinds of dynamics that don't allow us to remain mentally stable and clear inside us. Because for me, that's, like you said, the victory. It's a stable mind, a clean and clear intellect, and a clean heart.
Mm-hmm. It brings us back to what you also said at the beginning about the conscience. I think you brought in conscience, I myself brought in conscience. So when there is this voice inside that tells me, okay, this is what you have to do. And maybe all people around you, or maybe circumstances would rather show you, no, you don't do it. But you feel, you don't know why, but you feel, no, this is what I have to do. And then when you actually do it, it feels very clean inside. Very beautiful feeling. And it reminds me of one saying that's actually my favorite saying that I heard from someone. It's from Al Gore, the Vice President of the United States. At some point he said, I just read it here, remember
the former
that
vice president.
Former Vice President, yeah. Many years back, I think 2000, 2005. Remember that the right thing remains right, even if no one does the right thing. And the wrong thing remains wrong, even if everybody does it. And I really like that. And if we kind of, if we act upon what or if I act upon what I feel is right at the moment, I think actually this itself is victory. And then let's see what the outcome is. but you feel I have to do that. And I feel often we then know when we don't do it, and afterwards we will be thrown back to the same situation, and I then will realize, I knew I should do it, but I didn't have the courage, or I was influenced by others. So conscience, I think going along with my conscience leads to this feeling victorious.
Yeah. And it finishes waste. When you actually listen to your conscience, you won't let your thoughts touch somebody else or touch a situation. You will, because your conscience will only ever inform you about what you need to do. Anything else is just totally unnecessary. Your conscience will never tell you about what somebody else should do or what you should do to someone else. Your conscience is the voice of your own internal part. So it'll only tell you what you have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Conscience is
it will only tell you what you have to do. So when you listen to your conscience, you become conscientious. Then there's absolutely no waste thoughts about anything, about any person, any situation, irrelevant of what it's like. Because when you are conscientious, you know exactly what you have to do and what you have to be. And that's where your happiness
what I
lies.
feel, what the big challenge is in this part, when I want to listen to the conscience, and when there is not total fearlessness, I can be misled. For example, in a situation, where you really don't know, do I have to take a stand? Maybe you are treated not in a correct way. So, and now we're not talking about, of course, we understand we have to be respectful anyway, no matter how you're treated. But sometimes there is more to that. To be victorious, you actually have to take a stand, and you have to stop the wrongdoing to you. Otherwise, this is the donkey tolerance. I heard that from Brother Anthony. He said, like, no, tolerance is not letting everyone do to you whatever they want. That's donkey tolerance. So to listen to the conscience, and maybe the conscience tells you, well, look here, you really have to take a stand. You have to protect yourself. But then fear, for example, comes in and can override the conscience. You see?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I there's two things in this. One is, where is that thought coming from that this is not correct behavior? It's coming because most times we have very deeply cultural differences. What one culture sees as respect, another culture may not. And these cultural sensitivities, which is a form of body consciousness, make us very, very subtly judgmental of someone's behavior. Because I ask myself the question, if I am soul conscious, why would this thought even arise that what they're saying isn't correct? What is wrong is wrong. I don't need to think extra on top that it's wrong, because it's wrong. And the universe will show them it's wrong. I don't have to be the one waving the stick at them to say it's wrong. But what I feel I need to do is to keep myself safe. And keeping myself safe means that I may need to say something so that a distance is maintained. I may need to do something. So it's never that I'm doing it because they're wrong. I'm thinking they're wrong and I need to take a stand. It's more from the place where there's, okay, it is what it is. They are what they are. But I need to just remain safe. And what are the actions I need to take for my safety here? Now, when you are in a position of leadership, and if you are an instrument or the main instrument, and this is somebody who's working with you, then it is your role to say something. And you can be firm, but you can also be polite. right? And you're saying this for your safety and for their safety. So it's coming from a very unrighteous place. So I think that's really important, that the fearless part of it comes when we are deeply soul conscious, that you don't even have a thought that this is wrong or this is right. What is wrong is wrong. You don't need to have an extra thought to say, well, this is wrong. But what you do need to do is learn how to keep your mind and intellect safe. And whatever actions you need to take for that, you need to take for that. And you can actually then be much more graceful when you're coming from a place of creating safety. You're much more gracious in your expression than if you're coming from a place of very subtle righteousness. You know, I always say that, okay, somebody's doing something wrong, but the next wrong is when I think that they're doing something wrong.
True.
Right? Because immediately that thought puts me in a position of being righteous. And when I'm righteous, no expression works. You can't reach someone's heart. So I think the aspect of fearlessness is really to deepen my soul consciousness so that my cultural sensitivities don't get triggered.
Very
That was
nice.
lovely. Yes,
Yeah.
nice little addition to this.
So I
So
think
Manoj Bhai, anything else you want to add? I think we've gone well past 9 o'clock.
Oh, that's perfect. So it reminds me, as I was listening to all the conversation on victory, everything is internal and nothing to do with external victory on someone, some person. But it's all about how to gain victory on my old sanskars. And it's such an auspicious day over here. Right now, as I speak, I'm in the city of Kolkata in the east of India. And we have a festival coming in 10 days from now. And today is the first day of the puja, the Durga Puja, what they say, the goddess of victory, they invoke her. So I would want your light on that. Maybe Sister Gopi could do that. So the first thing is, as all of you have said, you said patience, tolerance, all these are those invoking those divine powers within so that I can really feel victorious on myself. And second, the festival which we celebrate 10 days from now, it's also called Vijaya Dashmi. So Dashmi stands for the 10 days in the path of devotion here in India. People invoke and they celebrate the victory of good over evil on the 10th day where they burn this big Ravan. So I want you all to, for the sake of the audience who may be new to Raj Yoga and spirituality, just explain this concept of invoking the divine powers within, and who is this Ravan, who is this Maya? And it's all an internal victory which we need to have on our weaknesses. So if you can explain that. In short.
I think the best way, to talk about what goes on inside is to externalize it in the form of a story, to give characters to your emotions in the form of a story, right? So in India, there's very much the story of the Ramayana, the burning, the conquest of the attraction that took Rama's wife away, and then the effort he made to bring her back, and then the conquest over evil to reclaim his kingdom again. But all of these are characters of what's going on inside, of an emotional play out inside. And I always say, people talk about Maya and Ravan. Oh, well, that's Maya. Oh, well, that's Ravan, as if it's something out there. But actually, it's just my own weakness. It's a sense of being overridden by a particular emotion that I don't have control over. So I say, oh, well, that's Maya and that's Ravan. And I feel that, before we even invoke powers, the first thing we have to do is to really disidentify from the human identity. and to re-identify at a spiritual level in the connection with the Supreme. If I can sit and I can let myself become soul conscious and just step away from the costume of the body, and in silence I can connect with the Supreme, the more I stay in that, absorbed in that connection, I belong to that one belongs to me. It's an eternal connection. It's an imperishable connection. That re-identification as a child of God is the first thing, because that's what then makes me a recipient of all of God's powers and virtues. I can't invoke powers, spiritual powers, in my current identity consciousness. And I feel that's the work, because the invocation of power is the transference of power happens when there's faith. So I have to go back to the roots of my spiritual identity first. And these days are very important, because soon, we celebrate Navratri, the celebration of the 9 nights of the goddesses. And the goddesses symbolize power. So people are fasting, people are doing a lot of things around this time. So the omens are good for having meditation in these days. But really, the first place for my meditation is, I am a soul, a child of the Supreme. I belong to that one, and that one belongs to me. And stay there in that awareness until you are convinced this is what you are. This is who you are, and this is who you belong to. And from that point on, you've just built a bridge for power, for you to receive power in whatever it is that you have to do.
So thank you. I'll just put the next question to Brother Matthias. The question is how do you understand the aspect of winning the race and get the best number in the race connected to victory? Are we in a race, first of all?
So it's not connected with what I shared at the beginning. Yeah? So the race, it's like the spiritual race. Are we in a race? We are very much in a race with ourselves. So we don't race against each other. It's like the image that I have in my mind is everyone is on his personal ladder, and you can visualize humanity, 9 billion souls, people, everyone has his ladder, and on his personal level, everyone can climb up. And I climb up on this ladder, and this is my personal race. How far can I climb up? And if the other one, if my neighbor climbs further up, well, that's good for me. That gives me a boost what's possible. Okay, let me also continue. Let me take inspiration from that. But it's not that I lose when someone is climbing up. And I think this is the main aspect that we have to kind of correct in our awareness. We often think when someone goes ahead, I will lose out because of the going ahead of someone, but it's not true. I am on my own ladder. So the other one goes up, very nice. let me be inspired and continue also.
Great. So this reminds me of another value which is very closely related to victory is success. And I remember Brother Brijmohan Bhai Sahab had taken the value on success. I think it was the 50th episode or something. Okay, so what is the difference between success and victory? Maybe Sister Gopi.
Success is accomplishment. And you can accomplish a task. You can, you wanted to do something today and you accomplished it. So successful. You're successful. It's an accomplishment. Victory is, I'm not sure if it's just an accomplishment, but it's often it's a stability against opposing forces. It's being able to remain stable even against resistance. And victory has a lot to do with stability, remaining unshakable and immovable. So it has less to do with doing, as Matthias had said earlier. It's less to do with accomplishments and more to do with the stability of my being in the face of resistance and opposition.
Okay, great. So thank you. I'll just take one more question in the interest of time. It's a saying and there's a question related to that. So the saying goes that obstacles are challenges for winners and excuses for losers. I'll repeat. Obstacles are challenges for winners and excuses for losers. So the question related to this is that if I am not getting any obstacles in my spiritual life, I'll repeat, if I'm not getting any obstacles in my spiritual life, does that mean I am not moving further?
That's a good one. Well, maybe can I take that? Gopi?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
You add then what you feel. I think if there is no challenges in my spiritual life, then maybe I'm stuck a little bit in a comfort zone. Maybe yeah, it could be that I'm just continue to do whatever I have been doing, and nothing much happening. No, I don't step back, but also don't step forward. So maybe it's a sign that I could pause and deeply reflect on what could be the next step on my journey, on my spiritual journey. And I don't mean that we have to be always active in the outside doing this and that, but if I don't experience any inner challenges, well, maybe I don't expose myself to situations where the challenges could actually arise. And so I don't know about them. I remember Sister Jayanti. I heard her once saying that I haven't seen anyone really transforming who doesn't mingle with some spiritual friends, spiritual family. I haven't seen anyone really transforming because you don't get to know what's inside. So if nothing is triggered, you don't know, aha, I have to work on that. So I think it's good when we see challenges coming along the way. But sometimes I'm also quite happy when there's no challenges.
I think I agree. You get a chance to rest. So rest.
Yes.
But I wouldn't go around invoking obstacles. I think for me is when I really deeply contemplate on what a truthful life is, and I make decisions to be truthful, then I get tested on that. And that's how it works. And sometimes if I've been careless in my efforts or careless, then an obstacle gets created. So somehow we kind of seem to think obstacles are our means for making effort. Actually, they're not. They might be the byproduct of our own carelessness that we have to, face again. But when you sustain a deeper contemplation inside of really refining your sense of what you look like when you're an embodiment of truth and purity, and then you make decisions in your life to be that will definitely invoke some test papers.
Right, great. So I'll just take this one last principle, the last question in the form of a spiritual principle, which is taught at the Brahma Kumaris. You all covered about faith leading to victory. So even if I am doing any task, and if I just create just one single thought of doubt, am I defeated at that point itself?
Well, it's Murphy's Law, right? If the domino falls that way, then what has to go wrong will go wrong, must go wrong. It has to go wrong. So you kind of wobble yourself with that first doubt. I think maybe you're allowed one mistake, but don't make the second mistake of sustaining that doubt. If you can catch yourself in time and go back to how you are and act from that place, it'll work.
And also, I like it to understand as something that has to be again and again recreated and strengthened. I think all of us, we have had these experiences where you got a thought and there is total faith, and this is what I'm going to do, and it feels so great, and then it happens easily. But I feel often it's not quite like that we have to create faith again and again, and replace the doubtful thoughts with thoughts of victory, thoughts of strength, thoughts of self-respect and faith.
And sometimes the doubt may be because you're not clear about what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. So, why is this doubt coming? Maybe because I'm not connected to myself. Maybe I don't feel I can do this. Maybe something's not clear. So it might require some investigation. But until you reach a moment where the decision is revealed to you that this actually has to happen, it's very clear what you need to do. So I wouldn't see it as a failure. I would see it as an opportunity to learn.
Right, wonderful. So we come to a close with the questions now, and we have our seniors with us. So I'll just request Dr. Ashok Mehta to propose the vote of thanks.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Gopi Ben and Matas Bhai. I think we really enjoyed your dialogue on victory, especially looking not from the external aspect, but from the internal aspect. But Gopi Ben very beautifully said is Gandhian principle of anasakta karma yoga. In other words, you do your action, you perfect your action without expecting any reward for it. And she quoted the Honorable Minister whom she met this afternoon. He was I think, shooting champion, or he got some silver medal. But that his focus was like in Arjun. You want to do your job perfectly, and of course, victory goes along with it. The more perfect you are, the victory follows automatically. So I think that is very interesting. And I just watched the game of cricket, one world cricket, where India beat Pakistan, and there were at least 100,000 people cheering. And that's that's our normal way of looking at a victory. And almost 30 million people watching on the small screen on the cell phone. Something we are totally disconnected from our internal victory, which we have been talking as a spiritual individuals, more at the level of our intellect, and rather than in the real life scenario which we see. whether it is in a war between two countries or two, whatever, two societies. I think what we heard from Gopi Ben and Matthias Bai was more illuminating than the victory we see outside. And I think with the internal victory on our evil, what you said, there are 9 days of Devi Pujan, that victory of the good over the evil, and then celebrating the 10th day of the Dashera and burning the effigy of Ravan. Then we call it Maya, and or the 5 vices. So I think victory over the vices is more important to us than the victory in the game of the games that we play, the wars we do, or the competition that we enter into life. I think we've been trained to look victory in different sense altogether. You go in an examination, you get 5 gold medals, and you keep on mentioning for the rest of your life that you got so many more gold medals, and that shows success. Or in our profession, how big is your name? How big is your practice? Or many societies you have been a president or whatever academic honors that you have received. In real life also, the Nobel Prizes, they show, of course, it's a success and victory almost go hand in hand in the real life story. So I think we've enjoyed the inner victory more than the outer victory, which we keep on seeing every day. Thank you very much for bringing a very sharp focus on victory on the evil and living a spiritual life. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashok Bhai. Lovely to see you.
So
Both
thank you,
of us-
Dr. Mac. Okay, so if I can just request Sister Anu to do the quick announcements, take the photograph, and then we'll go in the meditation. Over to you.
I'll take a minute to do the next upcoming programs announcements. And of course, as Dr. Mehta said, it was wonderful pairings, and we will take it on in our lives. Thank you so much to both of you. So as coming up, our next session is next week, Saturday, 21st October, the 3rd anniversary of this Values for Life series we started 3 years ago in October in 2021. So it's a wonderful 2020. So we'll have Brother Eric, a National Coordinator of Canada, and Sudesh Didi, the European Director of Brahma Kumaris in the UK, and Santosh Didi, who is the Director of Brahma Kumaris in St. Petersburg, Russia, Joint Regional Coordinator, Russia, CIS, and Baltic countries region. So there'll be a conversation between them, and I'm sure we will get many essence of this whole journey of 3 years. So please mark your calendar and join us then. And also, as we started the workshops with every value, we do a workshop after 1 week with experiential exercises and another Raj Yogi sharing again deeper aspect about that value. So that also we are reaching to 3rd year. So we'll have 3rd anniversary for the workshop series on 28th October, Saturday. Same time, 8 p.m. India. Next 2 sessions will be same time as today. And we'll have Sister Judy Johnson, who is Director of Brahma Kumaris, Atlantic Canada, and Sister Luciana, National Coordinator, Brahma Kumaris, Brazil. Again, Brother Eric will bring them together in a conversation. So please join us then. And you'll get more information about all these programs on our websites, vihasa.in and vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. All the YouTube programs, the videos of every program, including today, you'll find on our YouTube channels. Please check us there. As well as these are the playlists for the talk series and the workshop series. Thank you, everyone. And yes, quickly, if you can open your videos, we'll take a photo as we always take, memorize to make this moment memorial. Yes. So I get everybody's Cameras on. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Manoj. Over to you.
Well, and if we can now go slip in the meditation mode, and should we do a drishti or some sort of commentary? What do you all suggest?
Maybe just some silent drishti to finish. Om Shanti to all the victorious souls out there.
So thank you so much for your words of
Thank
wisdom. And
you.
Om Shanti.
Thank you, Matthias.